You have successfully resharpened your blades on your jointer to razor sharpness. Now you have to put them back into the cutter head and adjust them so that they are at the proper height so that you get nice straight joints from your jointer. We'll do that now. Hey, if you like what you see here or you found it interesting or useful, why don't you give that subscribe button a click. Maybe give us a like, maybe hit the little bell thingy, lets you know when we put up new videos. What? Huh? Oh, my lawyer would like a word with you.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
So here's a quick video on how to set blades into a Craftsman 6-inch jointer. I have my blades here. They've all been sharpened. I could shave with these. Okay, and I have my gibs here, and I have my gib screws here. Okay, this has all been cleaned, it's all been lubricated. It's pretty simple, but somewhat tedious, so I'll tell you how I do it. If you look right down in here, there are height adjustment screws, okay? Generally speaking, when you sharpen your blades, you'll shorten them a little bit, but not by much. These blades were in really good shape when I started with them, so I basically just put an edge on them. But still, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna screw these adjustment 1/8 inch hex here. I'm gonna screw these in about a turn. Well, why are you gonna do that, Robert? Well, because just like in tuning a guitar, I want to bring the blades up to spec. Okay, what I'm doing here now is I'm rolling this down just so when I put my straight edge across that, we'll be able to, it won't hit this table here, okay? So what you want to do then is you want to set this blade so that the flat end is right sitting on that jack screw, okay? And obviously the blade is going that way because that's your in-feed table, okay? So you have your gib, and your gib has this little groove in it. That's the chip breaker. So that's gonna go against the blade, and then you can see this end here is radiused so that it will crank against the blade and it'll hold that blade in there very tightly. Okay, so let's just set this stuff in here right now so you can see it. And you can do this out of your machine, you could do it in your machine, wherever. Okay, so you want to put the blade in first. I just screwed that up because I took it out trying to show you, but you want to put the blade in first. And you want to make sure that the blade is sitting on those jack screws. Then you want to put in the gib, okay? And it doesn't really matter right now, but you want to take your gib screws, which have been oiled really nice, and you want to take your, get it lined up right. And sometimes these can kind of be a bear to start. Make sure you're lined up. There we go. We'll start that guy. Notice the angle that I'm at there. That may help you. If the blade's going straight up and down, you want to be at about that angle. What is that angle? I don't know, call it 42 degrees. Okay, so I got both of them started. Now would be a good time to center this blade in the cutter head. So you want the same amount. There'll be a little bit sticking out of each end, usually. Doesn't have to be, but usually. So I just got that eyeballed in there. And then I'm gonna, when I say tighten these down, I'm not gonna tighten them down. I'm just barely gonna snug them up. Okay? Barely snug them up. And this is also a really important part. When I barely snug them up, I push down on this blade. Careful to not be cut, because these blades are sharp, if I hadn't mentioned that. Careful to not be cut. And then, matter of fact, I have a piece of wood here I can use for that. Okay, push the blades down. Make sure that the blade is seated against that jack screw. Okay, and then I'm just tightening them less than finger tight. Okay, so there we go. I'll move this stuff so I get my straight edge in there. Now the blade is sitting in there. It's where it should be. It's in the right rotation. The chip breaker is where it should be. Everything looks good. Now what we have to do is we have to use those two jack screws to raise or lower the blade so that it is exactly at the same height at apogee, at the highest it goes, as this table. So I got my straight edge here, and I'm looking across there, and we're low just a little bit. The way that it should be, because you'll remember I lowered them a little bit when before I even started. So I'm gonna put this in here, and I'm gonna back this jack screw out. As I back it out, it's gonna push that blade up. Okay? And that's what I'm looking for right there. And I'm gonna just back it out until it barely hits this straight edge, this ruler I have here. If you go too far, because it's being held in there, you can push it back in with like a block of wood like I showed you, but it's better to creep up on it and get it just right. I am extremely close right now. Another quarter turn maybe. Let's try that. Whisker close, whisker close. And yes, I am creeping up on it. Quarter of a turn each time. Wow, that is right there. What I'm gonna do is just get this guy about the same place before I do the last quarter turn, just to make sure they're parallel. Got a little bit more to go here. Boy, he just barely hits. How about this guy? Barely hits. So this guy is good. He is parallel. And we know that because we checked it on both sides way out at the end. Because think about it, if you get one side too low, the other side's going to be higher than it actually reads. So you don't want to just adjust one side and then adjust the other side. You want to kind of go back and forth a little bit like I did, so that you'll get it right up. Now what we'll do is we'll tighten down these gib screws. This will literally lower the blade a little bit. When I say a little bit, I'm talking thousandths of an inch. Okay, but it will, if it barely hit, and when I say barely hit, it was probably a couple of thou, honestly. Okay, so when I lower this down, or not lower it down, when I tighten this up, it might lower it down just a little bit. But if we do them all the same way, they'll be the same height. Let's see how much. And I'm gonna put the wood to it because you want these guys tight, okay? You don't want a blade coming loose. Trust me on that. Ask me how I know. Never happened to me personally. Okay, now I'm looking at it. Oh, he just barely hits. Barely hits. These guys are good. I did a good job. You know, even a clock that's broken is right twice a day, if you know what I'm saying, right? So I'm going to tighten these down the last little bit. And now I'm gonna do the same thing to the other two blades. You've seen me do it once. I'm just, cut and paste. There's nothing new about it. So I don't want to leave you in here for that, but you understand what is going. Hopefully if you follow these instructions, you'll get a nice, clean, non-convex, non-concave cut. Check it a bunch of times with various types of wood, various lengths of wood before you do it. Check 5 times, then call it good. All right, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe. In the comments, maybe you got a better way of doing it. I know there's some like magnetic blade setters that also work. With these jack screws, I have found those to not be required. They save me no time. But maybe you have a difference of opinion. Anyhow, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. All right, so you got all 3 blades in. At this point, you are gonna stop what you're doing.
All right, stop, collaborate, and listen.
And you're gonna do this. You're gonna look into each one of those jack screw holes, and you're going to ensure that the blade is actually sitting against the jack screw. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go by and you're gonna tighten each and every one of these gib screws to tight. You're not gonna strip them, but you are gonna tighten each and every one to ensure that it is nice and tight. Okay, and I'm not gonna cut you away. I'm gonna do each one of these also. I got the long Allen key here so I can get a lot of leverage on there. Okay, now I know they're all tight. I'm gonna look at each blade. I'm gonna make sure that it is centered in the cutter head, each one. So if I got a little stick out on each side, it's all gonna be the same. This might be a good time because this key is the same size. I'm gonna check these screws that lock the cutter head to the shaft. I'm gonna make sure they're tight. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spin this by hand. Make sure it's not hitting nothing. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my straight edge and I'm gonna check each one. I'm gonna check each blade twice. One on this side, one on this side. Just barely touches. 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 All right, so all those are the same. I like them when they just barely touch because it gives you a tactile indication that it is actually touching. If you say, well, I'm gonna do it so it doesn't touch, all right, how do you know that this side of the blade doesn't touch as much as this side of the blade? You don't, okay? So that's the way I do it. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this outfeed table up, okay, to right where it's exactly the same, okay? And I'm gonna check that all the way across too, all right? Then when I finally put this back together and I am gonna run it, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check it again. All those screws are tight, everything's in alignment. Then I'm gonna turn it on and walk away for about 3 minutes. All right, make sure everything's good. Then I'm gonna carefully run a couple of test pieces with very light cuts and I'm gonna have all my protective gear on and push sticks and everything else. These are dangerous machines, okay? And that thing's spinning fast and those blades are sharp. I want you to be safe and I want you to be careful. It takes an extra, 5 minutes to do everything that I said, okay? And then when you're running this machine every day like I run mine, I check all of that tightness and alignment about once a week. Okay, so hopefully you stay safe. Hopefully this gives you a great opportunity to check your blade and get your machine working just the way it should. As always, if you found something interesting or useful in this video, or even if you didn't, like, subscribe, do that kind of stuff. Thanks so much for watching.